All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar. Today's topic is on exercise in some areas that you may be overlooking in your routine. Before we get started, though, just a couple of housekeeping items to take care of. We will have time for questions at the end of the presentation, and you can type those in by clicking the Q&A section in the control panel in that lower portion. We will be posting a recording of the webinar on our blog. The link for that will be shown at the end. And if you'd like a PDF copy of the presentation, there will be a link to download that on the same post as the recording. If your question does not get answered today, please email our support inbox, which will be shown at the end as well. So for today, I want to talk about some of the more underutilized exercises we can do and should be doing in our daily and weekly routines. I will start by talking about overall exercise recommendations, but then I want to focus specifically on stretching and balance. The great thing about these types of exercises, especially right now, is that you don't need any equipment and you can do them at home very, very easily. So we'll talk about that, and then I'll touch on the benefits of doing those, of incorporating those into your routine, and then I'll go over how to get started getting them into your week. So what are the typical recommendations for exercise? Some of you may know these, but let's just have a little recap here. Let's start with aerobic activity, otherwise known as cardio. This is exercise that gets that heart rate elevated. The recommendation for this is at least 150 minutes of moderate activity or 75 minutes of vigorous activity each week. Moderate exercises that most of you would still be able to do now include things like walking or brisk walking, dancing, mowing the lawn, those types of things. Vigorous activities would be along the lines of more of running or jogging, or a cardio-specific online workout that has things like jumping jacks, high knees that really push that heart rate up. A good rule of thumb is that you can still hold a decent conversation while doing moderate activity, but you would struggle to do so in a vigorous activity. Next is strength training. The recommendation for strength training is to do exercises for all of our major muscle groups at least twice per week. Major muscle groups include the shoulders, the chest, your core, which is that midsection area, which includes both the front and your back. Then your hips, and then those big muscles, the quads and the hamstrings, the front and the back of those upper legs. Now the goal with strength training is to do about 12 to 15 repetitions of each exercise at least once in that workout. You're going to progress probably as you go, but that's the minimum recommendation. Now, like I said, today we're focusing on these lesser utilized exercise components, but if you're still looking for some ways to get in your cardio and strength right now, last month's webinar, I shared some online resources for workouts, so check back with that recording on our blog to find some good options. Or you can contact our health coaching team and they can get you some good ideas as well. Again, you'll have that information at the end today. Okay, so those two areas are usually what we hear most about, right? And you may have heard these recommendations many times before. What about these last two areas? They typically don't get mentioned as much, especially balance, but they're very, very important to our overall health, especially as we start to get a bit older. For stretching, the recommendation is going to be fairly similar to strength training. It's recommended that you stretch those major muscle groups 2 to 3 days per week, but actually daily would be ideal. And then you want to do it for about 30 to 60 seconds at least one time through for each of those stretches. Again, getting those major muscle groups. Now, if you're already doing cardio and strength workouts, you can easily add that stretching into those workouts. There are two different types of stretches to be mindful of, dynamic and static. I'm going to get into the differences between those here in a bit. And then for balance, there's not really an official recommended frequency like some of the other exercise areas, but it's something that, again, similar to stretching, that can be done every day. From what I've found, at least 10 to 15 minutes, 3 days a week would be a nice goal for you, and then more if you have balance concerns. The nice thing about balance training is that it's already built into many other forms of exercises. Now, there's a couple types of balance exercises as well, similar to stretching. You've got normal balance, and then you've got dynamic balance as well. And again, I'm going to get more into this when we get into some tips on how to get started with balance training. But before we do that, I want to talk about why you should include these types of exercises in your routine. We know that aerobic exercise helps our heart. We know that strength training helps our muscles, but what do flexibility and balance training do for us? Let's start with flexibility. First, It improves our range of motion. That makes sense, right? If you're stretching, you get more flexible and you can move those joints more and further. But why do we care if we can do that? For one, and a big one at that, it's going to help you perform simple everyday activities like bending down to pick something up off of the floor, or reaching up to grab something from the cupboard. Now, if your hamstrings and lower back aren't flexible, reaching down on the ground is tougher to do, right? Now imagine that it's your kid or your grandkid or your pet on the floor. Does that make you more motivated to want to be flexible enough to bend down and pick them up? I hope so. Hips and shoulders are typically areas that we lose our range of motion with as we get older. But if you continue to focus on stretching and flexibility, you will maintain that range of motion longer, and then you'll be able to do not only daily activities, but activities that you enjoy longer as well. Think about how hard it would be to golf, or maybe how hard it would be to golf well, if you can't rotate your hips and shoulders as much. Lots and lots of good motivation out there to keep that range of motion. A couple things that kind of go along with range of motion is benefits including reduced pain and reduced risk of injury. Regular stretching can help reduce stiffness in muscles and joints. It can help reduce pain levels, specifically in those with chronic neck or low back pain. Good stuff there. And it can actually help reduce the frequency and severity of muscle cramps. And if our muscles are warm and flexible before activities, they're less likely to be strained and sprained during that activity, right? Makes sense. Improved posture goes along with these other benefits as well. If you're not in pain and if you're not doing things like accommodating your neck or your back and putting yourself in awkward positions, it's likely that your posture is going to improve as well. And then combining stretching and strength training to improve strength in that midsection, in that core, and also in your upper body, that upper back, is a sure bet to help improve posture. And then in turn, again, it's kind of a nice cycle here. You improve pain and other health concerns that come along with poor posture in general. The next advantage of stretching is increased blood flow and circulation. We need good circulation in our bodies to help transport oxygen, nutrients, white blood cells, which helps the immune system, all of the things our body needs to keep our muscles and body parts working properly. So good stuff with that increased blood flow too. Now, for those of you that might be a little more competitive, stretching and flexibility can help improve your performance. I touched on that a little bit with the golf, but dynamic stretching, which I'll talk about here in a minute, helps prepare your body and muscles for competition. And being more flexible can help your body get into proper positions for different activities, right? I just mentioned golf, like I said, and there are many, many more examples of that, just having better form if you're more flexible. And then stress management is the last benefit I'm going to mention today for stretching. When your body is stressed, a lot of times our muscles physically tense up. That's one of the physical responses to stress. Regular stretching can help prevent this tension, and then so that lowers our body's physical response to stress, which actually in turn can help the mental side of things well. And then when we stretch, we typically take slow, deep breaths, right? That's kind of how you get into that stretch a little bit deeper, which is another way to lower our stress response in general. All good stuff. Now, these aren't the only benefits for stretching, but hopefully you're kind of getting a good feel for why we want to include that stretching. So let's hit on balance training next. These are going to be kind of along the same lines as the benefits for stretching, so I'm not going to take a whole lot of time here, but injury reduction is a benefit that stretching and balance share, but for kind of different reasons. While stretching helps your muscles be nice and flexible, balance training helps prevent injuries by promoting stable knees, ankles, hips, and shoulders. Because when you're doing balance exercise, all of those little supporting muscles that help those bigger muscles and joints, and that those bigger muscles and joints use for support, those get stronger, making your overall joint and your surrounding muscles and tendons and everything more stable, helps them work better together, kind of become a stronger unit, which decreases your likelihood of problems in those joints. Like I said, knees and ankles are big ones. Balance training also increases your body awareness, which is simply our sense of how our arms and legs and limbs are oriented in space. There's a fancy word for this called proprioception, but basically, if you're more aware of your body and how it moves and where it is in space, you're going to be better able to control it, right? You're going to have less likely to have things like falls. And then balance can also improve performance, just like stretching can. Now, this one I think is a little bit more obvious. If you have better balance, you can typically perform activities and you're more coordinated, right? Resulting in a better ability to perform tasks. This can be on the athletic side with sports or on the day-to-day activities side, like balancing up to clean a cobweb in the corner of your bedroom. Now, you can decide which one you value more, but balance is going to help you in both areas. So it's a win-win. And I just mentioned this, but balance can help lower instances of falling during normal day-to-day activities and during exercise. This is true for older individuals, but also for those who have suffered a stroke, those who might be overweight and have weight that's not as evenly distributed throughout their bodies. Because what that does, it causes a change in our center of gravity. It can actually lead to some imbalance problems. And pregnant women too, this is true for them. So having that good base of good balance, even before maybe something like a pregnancy or, when you're younger working on this, it can help prevent negatives in a lot of situations that could come up. So it's a good preventative too. Okay, let's get on to the good stuff here. How can you incorporate stretching and balance? I'm going to start with stretching. I mentioned earlier that there were two types, dynamic and static. Dynamic stretching is adding movement to the stretches and is typically used before exercise and can help that body get nice and warmed up for the movement. Static stretching is just holding a position where that muscle is being stretched. Static is usually used after activities and helps cool our bodies down and can help prevent that soreness that comes with working those muscles. So that's kind of the difference between dynamic and static. So what are some examples of dynamic stretches that you can do before a workout? Now, starting with that upper body, simply you can do arm circles, get those shoulders nice and warmed up. That picture on the top left, all you have to do is hold your arms out straight to the side, and then you just make little circles in the air. So you can go forward for 10 to 20, 30 seconds, however long you've got and however long you want to till you feel warm, and then switch the direction for that same amount of time. So you're gonna go forward and backward. Walking lunges get into that core and that lower body a little bit. These are just like what you think. They're that left bottom picture there, or kind of bottom below the arm circles. You just do a lunge and then you continue to take steps, but you take longer and deeper steps, right? Now be careful with your knees on this one. Just go down as far as is comfortable for you and don't let that front knee go out in front of your toes. So again, do that for 30 seconds or so, depending on how much room you have. Walk back and forth for a little bit, get that lower body and that core warmed up. Then we have some leg swings at the bottom here. Again, we're working on those hips and things. You can use a chair or the wall, or it looks like this woman has a nice walking stick, whatever you've got. But all you have to do is you swing your leg out to the side and then you swing it across in front of your body. So we just kind of swing it back and forth like a pendulum. Again, we're getting those legs, getting those hips nice and warmed up for getting ready for exercise. And then you can go front to back with that swing as well. And then last example here, high knees. Now you can stay a bit more lower intensity by just raising your knees and just kind of keeping your other foot on the floor, doing it nice and slow. Or you can make a little jog out of it and go a little faster. You can add a skip, as you'll see if any of you have ever been to a track meet or something like that. They do kind of high skips and those types of things. Again, totally wherever you feel comfortable. But those are just some different dynamic, different moving stretches that you can do to get your body warmed up before you do some exercise. And again, even if you don't do exercise after, these are just some nice movements that you can do throughout your day. You don't have to do anything after it. You can just use it to get that blood flowing too. All right, so I want to do some static stretching here. I actually created a video for this one to take you through some stretches that are going to hit that whole body. And again, just stuff that you can do regularly throughout your week. Just kind of use it as a routine. Now, so feel free to stretch along. I'm going to close the show here just for a minute, and I'm going to start it up.
Okay, guys, I'm going to take you through some stretches now to get hopefully that entire body, at least some options for you to get those major muscle groups. A couple things to note here. First of all, I'm not going to be holding the stretches for as long as I would recommend. 30 to 60 seconds, as I've said before, is kind of the ideal. But depending on time, do as much as you can. And then secondly, typically you would do these stretches after your muscles are warmed up. So at the end of a workout, end of a walk, something like that. Now, since we don't have that, for most of you, I don't think you've been moving around too much. If you're going to try them with me, just be careful. You're probably not going to be able to go as far as you normally would. So just keep that in mind as we're going through these stretches here. So I'm going to start at the top of the body and kind of work our way down and get you some good options. So first, we're going to do the neck. So all I want you to do is just stand up nice and tall. If you're sitting, that's fine too. Just sit up nice and tall. We're going to bring that right ear down to that right shoulder. So really easy stretch down like this. You're going to feel it in the opposite side of your neck, maybe a little bit into that shoulder here. To get a little bit deeper, you can also take that opposite hand and you can pull it down like this. Now again, being careful. You don't need to pull too hard. Just get that nice stretch, or you can just leave it like that too, however is comfortable for you to get that stretch. We're taking nice deep breaths while we're doing this. And then I'm just going to switch sides. So same thing, opposite ear down to the shoulder. And if you want to pull it down, you sure can. Feel that nice stretch over here on this side. And the next thing, I'm going to stay up here. I'm just going to stick with the neck, but I'm going to do a shoulder turn. Or excuse me, a head turn. So all I'm going to do is going to look over my shoulder as far as I can. Get that nice stretch a little bit back farther here. Nice deep breaths. Now we're going to switch to the other side. Same thing here. Feeling it in that neck, a little bit into the shoulders, maybe even a little bit into the back for this one. All right, next one I want to do is get into the shoulders a bit. So what we're going to do is we're going to do an arm crossover. So I'm going to take my right arm and I'm going to cross it over my chest. I'm going to take my left hand, put it right behind the elbow. Give a nice little pull, again, just to get a nice stretch. Should be able to feel it behind here on the back of the shoulder and into the back a little bit. Then I'm going to switch sides, same thing. Again, nice deep breaths. And again, the goal would be to hold these for a little bit longer. The muscles are warm. You should be able to go a little bit further, but just be careful right now. Like I said, we don't want pain, just a little bit of stretch. Sticking with those arms, let's get those forearms. If you're on the computer all day or driving all day, we can get tight in those forearms. So all I want you to do is I want you to put your hand forward. You can have your fingers up towards the ceiling or you can have it down towards the ground. You're going to take that other hand, you're just going to pull those fingers back. You're going to get that nice stretch right in the forearm here, top of the wrist. And then all I want you to do is just flip it over. So we're going to get the top now. Same thing. Pull those fingers back. This one feels really good. Feels better to me than the other way, actually, too. So again, if you're on the computer all day or driving all day, they get really tight. This is a good way to help prevent things like carpal tunnel, things like that. Now we're going to switch sides. So same thing. Pull those fingers back. Get that nice stretch. And then just flip it over. All right, let's get a little more into the shoulders and into the back and side a little bit here. So we're going to do just an over the head stretch. So I want you to do, take that right hand, reach it down your back as far as you can. So we're going to get that stretch in the back of the bicep, down in the shoulder here. And then take that other hand right on top of the elbow, pull it a little bit farther if you can. Again, being careful, being comfortable. Now another progression to this, we can get into the side and the core a little bit. We can do a little side bend with this. So we can lean over, really feel that stretch on the side all the way down. Again, make sure you're breathing, nice and easy. And then same thing on the other side. You reach that hand on the back as far as you can. Take that other hand, give it a little pull. And again, you can do that lean if you want to as well. All right, and the next one, if you're sitting, same thing. For us that are as active throughout the day, if we're sitting in a computer, sitting, driving, shoulders tend to slouch down, right? So you can actually tighten up those chest muscles as much. They can actually shorten up on us. So I just want to do a simple chest opener. So all you have to do is reach behind your back. If you can, clasp your hands, great. If not, just as far as is comfortable. And then we're just going to lift that chest up nice and high. Again, you should feel that stretch right across the chest muscles. Nice deep breaths. Keep that chin nice and high. This is a good one just to do throughout the day if you're sitting a lot. And again, after you've been active, if you're already an active person, you need to stretch those muscles too, because they can get tight once you stop that activity. All right, I'm going to hit that lower body a little bit here. First, I want to start with just a quadricep stretch. So these are our quads or quadriceps here. So you can grab a chair. All we're going to do is we're going to go to the side here. We're going to bring that right foot up. We're going to grab that foot. We're going to bring that heel towards our butt. Now, if this is uncomfortable for your knees at all, go ahead and stop. Don't do this one. I've got another one that can still get into the front of those legs for you here. But again, if you're going to do this one, we want to pull that heel in. We want to line up our knees together if we can. Then we want to push those hips forward. So what this does, it gets into those quadriceps as well, but we get those hip flexors too. Again, if you're sitting a lot, those muscles are going to get really tight on us, right? So we're going to stretch those out nice and good here. And then again, same thing on the other side. We're just going to bring that opposite foot up. Again, keep those knees in line if you can. Again, if you're feeling any pain in your knees, go ahead and skip this exercise. But same thing here, we want to push those hips forward so we feel it in those hip flexors right in front of those hips and all the way down into those quads. Now, if this one wasn't as comfortable for you, to get into those hip flexors a little bit, you can do kind of a modified lunge. So all you're going to do, one foot forward, one foot back here, and then you don't even have to go down very far. All I want you to do is stand up nice and tall, and then again, push those hips forward. You should feel that right here in the same spot that we just did with that quad stretch. You feel a little bit down your quads too. And if you want to get into the calves a little bit, you can push that heel down towards the floor. You should feel it in that lower leg down here as well. So nice stretch here, and then same thing. On the switch side, same thing. Big thing here, pushing those hips forward so we feel that stretch right in the front of those hips. It's good to stretch those legs. All right, last one, I'm going to do a hamstring stretch. I'm going to actually do this one on the ground. So we're just going to sit down. You're going to extend one foot forward. The other foot you're going to bring in towards your knees as far as it's comfortable. And then all we're going to do is we're going to reach forward towards those toes. Now, if you can only make it to your knee, that's fine. All we want to do is feel that stretch in the back of those legs, get those hamstrings. That's what our goal is. We want to try to keep our back nice and tall if we can. Keep that core engaged. Reach down as far as you can until you feel that stretch. Now, again, to get into those calves a little more, if you can reach your toes, you can pull those toes back towards yourself a little bit. You should feel it in those calves, the bottom part of that leg a little bit. And then we're going to switch sides. Same thing here, nice deep breath, sit up tall for the most part, reach down so you feel it in the back of those legs. Again, if you want it in those calves a little bit, pull those toes back towards you to get that nice stretch. All right, again, we want to warm up before we do these so we can get into those nice stretch, but those are just some static stretches for you.
All right. So hopefully those are some good examples of some stretches for you guys to try. Again, you can do those static ones or more for after activity, or again, do a quick warm up before you start, walk in place for a few minutes, something like that. Get those nice stretches and utilize those throughout the day if you're a little more sedentary these days, or if that's just part of your normal life, as being a little less active as maybe you'd want to be. Also, when I said back of the bicep, I should have just said tricep. So just so there's no confusion when I was doing those overhead stretches, I don't know why I said that. But anyways, moving on to balance training. Like I mentioned there too, there's regular and dynamic balance training. So basic balance is just holding a position. Dynamic balance is kind of the ability to move the body outside of its base of support, or the act of maintaining postural control while moving. That's the actual definition. So basically not falling down when you're balancing and moving at the same time is how I take that. So yoga is a great example of balance training. It can be both dynamic and basic, but a lot is going to be on that basic balance side, especially if you're a beginner. There are many great yoga online resources out there. I don't have time to go through a whole routine here, but a couple good free options are Yoga with Adriene and Cosmic Kids Yoga if you've got some kids. So check those out. Get some great beginner and just easy yoga, and you can progress too with those. And then a couple easy balance exercises that you can do while at home in the evenings are simply standing on one foot. That's something that many people don't even think of, but you might find it harder than you think it would be. And then you can also put your heel in front of your toes as well. So you just stand up, and instead of having that foot out to the side or up, you can put that heel in front of your toes, make it a little easier, but still it can be a challenge. And then you can progress these exercises if you need a challenge as well. So if you need to start by holding on to something and then work until you don't have to hold on to anything anymore. There's different equipment out there too, balance boards and Bosu balls, which are these blue things on the right side in this picture too. So if you're looking for equipment, something additional, those are some options, but you don't need anything. All you need to do is to lift a foot up. And again, being careful, obviously not progressing until you're ready. And then some specific examples of dynamic balance. Tai Chi is a really great dynamic balance exercise. It requires balance and movement throughout the entire workout. That top left picture with those two people there is an example of Tai Chi. A quick online search is going to give you some more information and some beginner moves, or if you've got people around your city, when things do open up, obviously reach out. And as always, with any of these exercises and anything new, please check with your doctor, make sure it's safe for you and your health history. But anyways, a couple more examples of dynamic balance include heel to toe walking, the woman on the top right there. So I talked about the static or the normal balance of just putting your heel in front of your toes. This actually takes a progression of walking while you're doing it as well. So you can use a partner first if you need help, or go along the wall and then progress to doing it on your own. Walking lunges, which I've already talked about as a dynamic exercise or dynamic stretch to get ready for exercise, that's another great progression, and it's going to be more on that advanced balance exercise. And you can even add a twist to that too. So if you lunge down, then you can do an upper body torso twist side to side. Again, this is a progression. It's not something that you need to do right away, but that's something that can help with balance and movement and strength and in everything, is in stretching as well. So lots of good combination of both stretching and balance that we've got. And then you can also progress those basic 1 foot balances that I just talked about a couple slides ago to add in some dynamic elements. So you can add in arm reaches. The top two pictures here, you can add some arm reaches, just going side to side. You can add some leg raises, that type of thing. Again, the progression would be where you're not holding on to something. And then you can even add an upper body exercise like a bicep curl, this bottom picture here. Now, if you don't have weights, use a can of soup or water bottles or milk jugs, something like that, just to add some intensity and difficulty, just as some normal balance exercises that you have. But really biggest takeaways I want you to get today is try to hit all 4 elements of exercise. But if nothing else, doing some stretches and balance exercises while you're at home a little more these days is a really, really easy thing to do. And it's going to pay off in long-term benefits. And then here's a sunset just because it's beautiful and we need some more beautiful things to look at right now. So that's my spiel for today. Couple things before we go to the questions. Here's our upcoming webinars. Next month, Improving Your Health, a step-by-step guide. If you've already signed up, we basically just changed the title a little bit, but it's all about improving your health, which in turn improves your Health Check 360 score, all that good stuff. So just small steps, how to improve your health. And then in July, we're going to talk about kind of the mind-body connection, how mental and physical health go together in those connections that they have there. And then if you do have lifestyle rewards, these are going to be the questions. If you do have them, those questions will be on your My Health Check page on the lifestyle rewards. So don't feel like you have to write everything down. You can download these slides if you want a copy of them as well. But again, if your company does these for lifestyle rewards, these are going to be the questions for you. And then if you haven't seen anything on social media, Health Check 360 is giving you a chance to win this month. We're giving away 4 $50 gift cards of your choice to different places. And all you have to do is track your activity in the app starting tomorrow, May 7th, through Sunday, May 10th. So just a few days here. The mobile app is super easy to use, provides you with access to your screening results, your survey. You can schedule coaching calls. You can earn those lifestyle rewards that I just talked about. You can participate in challenges anytime, anywhere. And then if you don't have the app to get started, you've got the scan code on the screen, or you can go to the App Store and search My Health Check 360. And then you can just log in to the same login that you'd have on your regular computer. You can enable push notifications to get updates and reminders. And then you can also connect your tracking device like Fitbit or MyFitnessPal, Apple Health, that automatically syncs that activity. But that's it. All you have to do is track your activity for the next few days and you can win $50. That's good stuff, right? All right, and then our contact information here. We're on Twitter, we're on Facebook, we are on Instagram. The blog is where you're gonna find the recording and the slides of this webinar and all of our past webinars. And then if you wanna contact us, phone number down at the bottom here, or email us. Again, if you don't have a question right now, but one pops up in a bit, just reach out anytime. We'd love to chat. All right, let's see if there's